Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great week at home and that you've been having fun with your family and learning lots of things, even though we don't get to see each other at co-op. But this week, we were going to be learning about Easter in cooking through biblical feasts. And so I had some Easter recipes, just traditional things that you might fix at home. And I will tell you that the recipe we were going to do was going to teach you about separating eggs and things like that. But because I told you last week how the stores, it's hard to find some ingredients, we can't make that. We were going to do cornbread, and cornmeal is actually really hard to find right now, believe it or not. Usually it's very easy. So we might do that next week if I can find cornmeal at the store, if they get their baking ingredients back in stock, just to have something for your parents to keep in mind. And if not, I'll figure something else out. So this week I changed it up and thought, well, you know what? A great dessert that everyone seems to like in the spring and summer has to do with strawberries. So I thought we'd do strawberry shortcakes. And so I thought we would learn to make the topping for strawberry shortcakes. And this way you can use your cutting skills that you like to use, but you're also going to get to use the stove with your parents' supervision. In class, you know, when we try to work on the stove, it's kind of hard to do because there's so many of us and we only have a couple stoves in the classroom. And so in order to be safe, we need to make sure we have more parents and more stoves and things like that for everybody to get to do it. So now that you're at home, you have your own stove and your parents right there to help you so you can work on some of your stove skills. So I'm really excited that you get to do that this week. So this is a very easy, in fact, it's called Easy Strawberry Shortcake. It's a very easy strawberry shortcake topping recipe. And I'm gonna put that in the email when I send this link to your parents. So you'll get to print that off. But all you need is strawberries, 1 pound of strawberries, sugar, a 1/3 cup of sugar, vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we've talked about this before. Remember that when you're cooking and baking, you really want to use pure vanilla. So you don't want to use the imitation. It's going to have a different flavor. The pure vanilla is going to taste a lot better. The imitation will have like a almost, sometimes it can give it kind of a medicine-y taste. Us adults know it as more like a alcohol-y taste, not like bad alcohol, but it has that kind of taste to it. Like you guys would think of it as maybe a medicine-y taste. So you don't want to use imitation. You want to use pure. And then optional is whipped cream. If you want to get some whipped cream at the store, or if you want to look up a recipe to make some, you can do that too. And then you can put this on shortcake. That's those little round cakes. It's in this picture that you'll have in your printout. The little shortcakes, or what our family loves to put it on is angel food cakes. So that's the round cakes with the hole in the middle, and it's really spongy. So we like to use angel food cakes. So that's another great one to use. Or if you have another kind of cake at home, white cake or whatever you want to make, you can put on there. Something else, if you don't want to put it on cake and you want something maybe a little healthier, then you could put it on yogurt and try it on yogurt. Or if you just want a cold treat and you have some vanilla ice cream, it would go good on vanilla ice cream. So you can use this in all kinds of different ways. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your 1 pound of strawberries. And, oh, you know what I forgot to tell you? What's our first rule in our cooking class? What do we do when we first get to cooking class? We wash our hands. And girls, you put up your hair before you wash your hands, right? So I did that. I got my hair up, washed my hands. When we work with produce, what's the first thing we do with our produce? We wash it. So I've already washed the strawberries, and I've got 2 pounds in my colander. And I've got it sitting over here. They're still dripping. They're drying. But so I'm going to double my recipe when I make it, just so I have enough for my whole family, and we'll eat it for a few days. And sometimes I might send stuff over to my mom's house. But we did strawberries before. And at the beginning of the year when we had strawberries, we just kind of took our knives and you just kind of you see how my hands are straight up? You just cut the top off. And you can do that if you want to, but remember we lost some of our strawberry when we did that? So then the next time we did strawberries, we did a new technique. And remember that time we took a spoon and we just dug out right beside the green stem, so we didn't lose all of that berry. We just got the stem out. Remember that? And see, look at there. Okay? So you can do that. You can use either way. You can take your knife with your parents' supervision and cut the tops off, or you can use a spoon like we did in class and just dig out the top of the strawberries. Then you're going to take your knives and you're going to use your safety. Remember, you're going to hold the knife up. I'm using my big knife, but if you can use a smaller knife. Remember how we usually use like the steak knife size in class? You can use that. And you're going to hold it up. Remember our safety of holding our knife up so we have good control over it. And your hold of your fingers. Remember, you're going to use your soldier. You could use your claw if you're going to cut it into strips, I guess. But the soldier and the tunnel are going to be what you're going to use this time. In fact, I'm going to use the tunnel. And that's the one I suggest for strawberries because we're going to cut these in fourths. So the first step on our instructions are remove the tops of strawberries and then cut the strawberries into quarters, which are fourths. So there's 4 pieces, or halves for the smaller ones. So we were small ones, you can use half. So this, I'm going to put my knife on my strawberry. Remember, the tip goes down. Tip's always on your cutting board. You're going to hold it like a tunnel, and you're going to come straight down. And there you go. So that's 2 pieces, but we need 4 because this was a bigger one, right? So we're going to turn it over so it's flat. Remember when we talked before about having roly-poly fruits and vegetables? We don't want roly-poly fruits and vegetables when we're cutting because then that can move, right? And then our knife moves, and that's not safe. So we want to turn those over so the flat part is on your cutting board. Remember, the tip is on the cutting board. You're going to come over for your tunnel, and you're going to go straight down. Okay, so that half gave me 2, and then this half, and that tip on the cutting board, tunnel, straight up, and then that. So now I have 4 pieces, so that's quarters. Okay, that's in quarters. It's in 4 pieces from 1 strawberry. Okay, now if you have a smaller strawberry, you can just cut that in half. Tip on the board, tunnel, and in half. And see how much smaller that one was than this one? And so that's okay. See how that half is about the same amount of strawberry as this quarter. That's why you can just do those in half. And it is just fine. If you like lots and lots of small pieces though in your strawberry shortcake topping, you are more than welcome then to either use the tunnel or just hold onto the end with straight soldier. And you can cut that into these smaller pieces if you want. I like lots of small pieces, so I usually cut mine like this. But you don't have to if you like the big chunks. I know some people like the big chunks of strawberries. So that's up to you, how you want to cut that. So I'm going to cut up my strawberries. And I'm going to pause this video for just a moment while I cut these up. And when I come back on here, I'll have my strawberries cut. And I'm going to put them in this skillet. And we're going to go on to the next part. Okay, hang on just a second. Okay. So I've got all the strawberries cut up right down here, and I put them into my pan as I cut them. So you need to have a skillet, a medium to large size skillet. I'm using a large one since I put 2 pounds of strawberries in there instead of just 1. So see how they're all cut up, ready to go. So now we have to add our sugar and vanilla. So we've got our sugar, take my scooper out, and it says that we need 1/3 cup. So, I grabbed one that you can't really see it, but it's 1/3. So you can't really see it on this one. I grabbed the wrong one. But it's 1/3, 1/3 cup. I grabbed my Mickey Mouse one because I thought you might like to see that. Forgetting that you can't really see the numbers on it. So let's level out my sugar. 1/3 cup. Okay, but remember, I doubled this, so I have to put that in twice. 2 times because I have 2 times the amount of strawberries. I have to do 2 times the sugar. So there's another 1/3 cup. So that's 2/3 cup for me. I know that looks like a lot of sugar, but it's going to cook down. And if your family doesn't like really sweet things, you can cut that down to a 1/4 cup if you want to per pound, and that should be just fine. And if you need it to release some more juices, you can just add just maybe a tablespoon of water to help it as it's cooking. So the sugar, it sweetens it, obviously, and it helps bring out the strawberry juices, which is also what the heat is going to do. But now I've got my vanilla, and it's 1 teaspoon. Now, I always tell you not to measure over the thing, so I'm going to do it over my measuring cup because I didn't grab a bowl. Because not over here, you'll get too much. So we have 1 teaspoon, 1 TSP, the smaller one, remember? Not the tablespoon, the teaspoon. 1 TSP. Because vanilla is one of those things that can be overpowering if you put a lot in. So you don't really want a full tablespoon in there. I've made it before with a full tablespoon because there's a recipe online that called for that. Because I've never put vanilla, and I might just do 1 instead of 2 because I'm not a huge fan of vanilla in it. But I thought you might like the extra flavor from it. But I had never put vanilla in my strawberry shortcake topping before. And then I saw that online years ago, and I thought, I'm going to try it. But it called for a whole tablespoon, and that was just a little too much for me and my family. So I just put a teaspoon in here. You can put half a teaspoon. You can leave it out if you want. That's totally up to you. But see how I've stirred that all up, so it's got sugar all over it. So we're going to pause it again. I'm going to take it over to my stove, and then I'm going to show you it cooking. Okay, so I've turned my skillet onto medium heat. Or it's not my skillet, but my stove. I turned my stove to medium heat. So I'm going to cook this over medium heat, stirring it occasionally. You don't have to sit here and stir it the entire time, but you also don't want your strawberries to burn. So you kind of need to stay near it and keep an eye on it. And you're going to stir it, and for 5 minutes is what it's going to heat up on, or heat up for. So 5 minutes on medium heat, stirring occasionally. Ooh, can you see how that sugar is already starting to kind of get melty over with the heat and the juices from the strawberries coming out? See how you can already start to see that, the juices? So that's what we want. We want lots of juices coming out. And that's what the heat and the sugar is going to help. It's going to draw all that yummy juices out of the strawberries to make this a wonderful topping. Oh, don't mind that smoke on there. That's my cleaner. Yeah, burning off of the stove rings. Oops. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to pause this. We'll come back in 5 minutes to show you what that is supposed to look like. All right. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, and you can see how liquidy, how much liquid has come out of there. Look at all that. And these are really soft. And you could, if you want to try to get a little bit more liquid out, you can go a few more minutes if you want to. Or like I said before, you can add a little bit of water if you wanted to once it cools off. But some things that I didn't say before, what you need to remember when you're cooking on the stove, guys. Like I said, make sure your parents are there with you, but you need to hold the handle when you have your pan on here, because you don't want to not hold the handle and then maybe you've stirred really fast or really hard and look, things are moving and sloshing, and that's never safe. So you hold your handle. You're not going to hold it near the hot part because that will burn you. Hold your handle back here. If your handle does not have a grip on it that stays cool, then you need to use a hot pad around the handle and hold on to it. Hold the handle while you stir. Hold your spoon, and then you never want to touch the pan itself. That is very hot. And you never want to touch the liquid that's in it. That's very hot. Can you see it bubbling? Remember how we talked about simmering and those bubbles coming up? So see, it's already beginning to simmer. That's very hot liquid. You do not want to burn yourself. So this next step, you're actually going to need your parents to do the next step. The next step is going to be turning the heat off, and then you're going to pour it into a bowl. I'm going to pour mine into this bowl. It's just my favorite bowl to use. And so your parents are going to need to do that. One, so that way they can kind of help control. This is a big area going into a smaller area. And I don't want you accidentally getting that poured onto your feet or your hands or anything, because that will hurt. So make sure that your parents help you pour this in here, or have your parents do it. It's also going to slosh a little bit, so you want to make sure that you're doing this not towards you, but away. So I don't know if you can see that with the camera. I'm going to do it toward me, which I don't want to do. But so that way the camera, you can see it pouring in there. Okay? Now, make sure you have this in a heat-resistant container. Something that's not going to, obviously plastic's not going to work because that's very hot. It's going to melt the plastic. This is a heavy metal bowl that's meant for hot things or cold, not metal, but glass. I'm sorry, a heavy glass bowl that's meant for hot things or cold things. But because this is very hot, and it's in glass, I'm going to let it sit on my counter. I'm going to move it over to my counter. Actually, we'll move it over to the table with us here in a second. And before I put it in my refrigerator. So give me just a second. I'll explain that over at the table. Okay, so like I said, this is a hot liquid in here. And this is glass. So if you have a hot liquid in your glass, you need it to cool just a little bit before you put it directly into a cold refrigerator. And never put hot glass directly into the freezer. Now, we don't want it to, if you had a food that you needed to maintain a temperature, you don't want to let it cool too much. We'll learn all about that next year, cooking, but before you put it in the fridge, but just enough so that way your glass doesn't get cracked. And again, never hot into a freezer. And also never a bowl that's been in the freezer, if it's glass, goes into a hot oven either. We'll cover that next year too. But just some quick tips for you to know now. So I'm gonna let that cool for a few minutes. And okay, so that's gonna go into the fridge covered. Make sure you cover it to cool, and then it'll thicken up. So as it's in the refrigerator, it's really thick and it's really thin right now. But as it cools off, it's going to thicken up a lot, like the topping that you're used to having when you have strawberry shortcake. Okay, now for the fun parts. These are some of our pictures. Let me show them to you of what some of our friends made this past week. Okay, so Lydia, when she was making our apple recipe, she used her cutting skills and cut that out of her apple. How cute is that? A heart and the word mom. She made that for her mom out of one of the apples. Great job, Lydia. And then Lydia also made pancakes, and she put cream and strawberries in their pancakes. How awesome is that? So she was using some skillet or griddle skills this week. That is fantastic. I love it. Great job, girls. And then Maddox, he made a pie at home. Here he is doing the crust. He made a pie from scratch. Look, you can see where his rolling pin was. And here he is putting the fun scalloped edge on the pie there. And then here he is with his pie in the oven. Great job, Maddox. That's a lot of different skills that you used this week for that. You guys did such an awesome job. Remember that if you want me to give you a shout out and your friends to see all of your fun cooking adventures, have your mom or dad send me either through email, or they can send it on Facebook Messenger, or even text it to me, and I'll get those printed out and I'm going to show them to you on my videos each week. If I missed somebody this week, I'm really sorry. I'm going to go through my emails and make sure I didn't miss anybody. But we got them from Maddox and then from Lydia and Greta. And so Lydia did a great job with cooking, and I think Greta helped her with the pancakes too, probably. Anyway, so that's for this week. Strawberry shortcake topping. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you have a great week at home. Next week, we'll do one more recipe getting ready for Easter. So have a good night or a good day. Bye.